Man, it's so crazy. I haven't had Doritos in years, but I would have it all the time in middle school. I think it definitely took years off my life. Doritos and Mountain Dew Code Red, oh my God. Oh, straight up, 7th and 8th grade, I have so much of that. There's gonna be like a class action lawsuit. Like 20 years from now when people are just like, did you have Mountain Dew Code Red in 8th grade? Call Habis Amendola and Associates, 188, Habis. And you're like, that was me. All right, what is your favorite Trader Joe's item? This is from Kat. Ooh. This is from Kat. Is Kat here?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your favorite item?
Everything but the bagel seasoning.
Everything but the bagel seasoning? Damn, divisive. People like the bagel seasoning, don't they? It's
Call it everything but the bagels. It's called
oh, yeah, that thing. It's like where everything's all combined in one. Yeah. I thought you were like, I love everything but that thing. Okay, yeah. I like their, I don't like this, I find it weird. You know how like all their ethnic food has like a very specific name? But it's like quasi-racist, but they don't address it. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Trader Ming's is their Asian food. I'm not joking. Trader Jose is their Mexican food. They're just like, it's Trader Jose, but their food is so good, they're like, you're not gonna do anything about it. Like everybody has their NPR tote bags and they're like, it's Trader Ming's, and they bang a gong and you're like, I'm lazier than I am woke, you know? What Hogwarts house would you place yourself in? In which house would the Sorting Hat actually put you in? This is from Sarah. This is your Hogwarts question? This is your question?
It might have been my sister. I didn't know about it.
Your sister filled it out?
I guess.
For you?
I guess.
Which Hogwarts house would you be in?
Probably like Hufflepuff or something. I don't know.
That's great. Yeah, usually people are like, I'm a Gryffindor. But like Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, they're generally like, you know, they don't beef, do they?
A little, I feel like.
Aren't they more like, we're brave? Hufflepuff is like the more chill. Hufflepuff has a badger as their mascot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're cuddly.
Yeah, I feel like they're the UC Santa Cruz of like houses. You know what I mean? Like you'd go surfing and you'd be like, all right, like, I made up my own major. That's like a Hufflepuff. What if like, I feel like if I wore the hat would put me in Hagrid's house. Like the Sorting Hat would be like, you're in Hagrid's house. I'd be like, what? Like, you live with Hagrid. You guys have bunk beds. I'm like, all right. What house would you be in?
I think Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff?
Yeah.
Hufflepuff too?
I took a Facebook quiz. I'm a Gryffindor.
You're a Gryffindor? Nah, dude. Nah, dude. Everyone thinks they're a Gryffindor. What house would you be in? Hufflepuff? Now everyone's... Okay, what house would you be in?
Me?
Yeah.
Gryffindor.
You're like, I've never thought about it. I'm like, say what? Hagrid's? Yeah. You hang out with the groundskeeper. What is an example of a genre or a potential pivot that's outside your comfort zone, but you'd really like to try at some point in your career? I feel like my dad wrote this. I'm just like, what's something else you could do besides... One time I was watching TV as a kid, I remember, what show was it? It was like a daytime talk show or something. Maybe, no, it wasn't a daytime talk. It was like Mr. Rogers or like Sesame Street, but there was like a professional ice cream tester. And it was a real job. He's like, I test ice cream. I have a golden spoon. And then he would just like, he would taste, there would be all these ice creams and he would just like taste something, but, and he's like, that's pralines and cream. And then he would just taste ice cream, and that was his whole job, like telling you about the viscosity of it and how good it was. And that's like his full-time job. He has a golden spoon. He wears a lab coat. I feel like that would be a cool career pivot. What would your career pivot be?
Basketball player.
Basketball player?
Yeah.
Like, could you do it, though? Not currently, but like... That was my first like response, but I'm like, I just have to also be realistic. Ice cream tester. Basketball player?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have the height either.
What about you?
You're like a doctor.
A doctor? You can pivot to anything. What do you do right now? Are you like an ice cream tester and you're like, I'd pivot to something a little bit more practical. You're an engineer. You pivot to that? You go from engineer to doctor? You can do, oh dude, come on. Imagine. Can you please share what you think about Taiwan recently becoming the first Asian country to legalize same-sex marriage, and if you think this could impact other Asian countries? It's a great question. This is from Serena. I think it's great. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll impact China because China won't even recognize Taiwan as a sovereign country. So Taiwan's like, China's like, you know, who are you? That's what they'll say. But I think the domino effect in the region could be good. But India is one of the few countries that, I don't know if you guys heard recently, had that huge Supreme Court case, and they overturned the anti-sodomy law, which I think is a huge win. And as major democracies, yeah, I think it's really awesome. And I think as major democracies in other parts of the world push back against this antiquated law, I think it's a huge win for the entire region. So ultimately, I think it's a good thing. Yeah. All right, would love an episode on Mitch McConnell. Ugh. This is from Becca. Seems like, for the most part, he's been able to hide behind Trump/Obama, and that his impact on our country seems lost on people. Damn, that's a really good question, Becca. Yeah, I think probably the worst thing that McConnell's done, that he kind of has been able to fall underneath the radar, was the Merrick Garland decision. I think that was probably the most fucked up thing that he sort of pulled off. He really is like a tactician. Like, you know how like in clubs you'd have the parliamentarian, like the nerd who knows all the rules? He's that guy. And I think a lot of times the mistake people make is they just do all the turtle jokes and they don't realize how good he is at his job, which is probably the scariest thing that he does. If you could be any Doritos flavor. I love the gamut of our questions. You know what I mean? We need to talk about Mitch McConnell and how he's destroying our country. But Doritos. If you could be any Doritos flavor, what would you be? This is from Aisha Ali. That's such a weird question. What flavor would you be?
Flamin' hot flavor.
There's a Flamin' Hot flavor? What color's the bag? It's red. No, but red is nacho cheesier.
Like more red.
It's a more red bag. I would say Cooler Ranch. Cooler Ranch, salsa verde. I feel like anyone who's like nacho cheese, like the classic one, is definitely like a Trump supporter. I can't prove it. I can't prove it. But I feel like it's the MAGA hat of chip choices. Don't you feel like that way? Like Mitch McConnell would be like, I love nacho cheese. Wouldn't it be? No, why? Just the regular ass nacho cheese? What flavor would you be? Cooler Ranch. Cool. I'd say the blue bag or the green bag. Why? You don't like Cooler Ranch? Not salsa verde? Man, it's so crazy. I haven't had Doritos in years, but I would have it all the time in middle school. I think it definitely took years off my life. Doritos and Mountain Dew Code Red, oh my God. It's straight up 7th and 8th grade. I have so much of that. There's gonna be like a class action lawsuit. Like 20 years from now when people are just like, did you have Mountain Dew Code Red in 8th grade? Call Habis Amendola and Associates. 188, Habis. And you're like, that was me. Yeah, we usually try to pick there's sort of two main emotions I try to go for. The first one is, I like to pick a topic that makes people go, oh my God, how have I been living my life and not knowing that? Like, how did I not know that piece of information? Like, I think what's great about this episode that I really like is, we live in a first world country, we invented the internet, and yet there is a huge part of our population that is just denied basic internet access, which is just crazy. Like that idea of like, how did I not know that? Or number two, it gives the feeling of, oh my God, thank you for talking about that. In Sudan, the episode that we did last week, that to me checked that box, where there's this horrible situation that's happening over there where Sudanese protesters have overthrown their government, that, you know, Omar al-Bashir was like a horrible dictator for the past 30 years, and now they're going head to head with the new military regime. but a lot of Western media outlets can't cover it. Like they've shut off the internet. There's all this crazy shit that's happening. So I usually try to provide stories that check one of those two things. Yeah, they usually.
What's happening to that? Rihanna posted about it. So
Oh, Rihanna posted about it?
everyone's like, oh, so but I appreciate you.
I mean, I don't have the impact that. yeah. But I was on it first, Rihanna. No, it's good. I think any attention is good. It's good. Thanks. What's up?
Out of everyone that you had to speak to at the White House Correspondents' Dinner,
Yes.
who is the one person you wish you didn't have to speak to?
The one person I wish I didn't have to speak to, I'll say this: the scariest person that I spoke to after doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner set was Jeff Zucker. So after the Correspondents' Dinner speech, I'm like leaving the stage, and I've obviously made fun of CNN. I've made fun of Fox News. I probably gave it to CNN the hardest, right? And ultimately, like my punchline to CNN was like, you gotta do the news. It can't just be like every time I turn on CNN, it can't look like I'm playing Street Fighter and there's 15 cubes and I'm trying to pick my player, right? Anyways, I finished the set, and it's all about like journalism and how important journalism is and how important the truth matters and all that stuff. He comes up to me, I'm like leaving the stage, and he's just like, hey man, Jeff Zucker, we gotta do what you're doing on CNN. And I was like, no. But that terrified me the most. Like that idea of just like, man, that was funny, people were laughing, it was crazy. We need more of that on a news network. Like that to me terrified me the most. That idea that just like, that's really great, I see ratings. That really sort of scared me the most. Yeah.
What's your most played track on Spotify? Also, Apple Music doesn't count.
Apple Music doesn't count?
It just doesn't count.
Okay. All right. Most played track on Spotify. It'd probably be the Zayn Malik Whole New World remix. It's fire. And my daughter loves it. Yeah, we played it in the morning. We're like, Alexa, play Zayn Malik Whole New World. Yeah.
Did you see Aladdin?
Did I see Aladdin? Yes, I saw Aladdin. I had to. Opening night, I bought 6 tickets. I just invited random people. Yeah, of course, I had to. So.
What do you do that doesn't involve taking new information in?
I try to not be on my phone. That is the worst. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah. I was walking to work like 2 days ago, and a lot of people in my building, they have dogs. So I'm leaving my building, and there's this guy. He's getting dragged by his dog. Like the dog is like straight up dragging him, and the dog is like shitting in the middle of there's like a little driveway in our building. So he's being dragged, but as he's being dragged, he's still on the phone. So the dog is like shitting, and the dude's like this, and I was just staring at him, You know how like Indian people stare? So I'm just like, and I'm with Bina, and she's like, stop doing that. But I was like, he like looked up, and he like caught me looking at him, and I'm just like, dude, like put your phone down. You're like, this dude, the dog is shitting on you, like he's getting on your shoe. You're just like, Instagram discover page. Like, yeah, it was terrifying. I'm like, dude, it's getting Black Mirror. Like, people are straight up like, can't even take a second. So that's my thing. Like, I try not to be on my phone. Try to just, read the newspaper. So like the other morning I was walking. I was like walking in the morning, and this kid, like we all do. No, I take the baby on a walk. So I was like pushing her in the stroller, and there's like this like 7th grade like Bengali kid. He was like walking through like this, and he was. This is how I'm old. He was listening to Travis Scott really loud, and I was just like, turn it down, man. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. He was like, it's like too early, right? It's like, you can like hear it farting through the beats. And then he was walking and he saw me and he was like, Hasan Minhaj? What the fuck are you doing here? And I thought he was gonna jump me. I thought this kid was gonna like take my, hey man, take my lunch money. This kid's 13. What the fuck you? This is like kids in New York, right? What the fuck you doing here? And I'm like, I live here. And then he's like, let me get a pic. And then I'm like, all right, cool. And then he had like Snapchat open, right? And he was like, And then I saw him do this. He goes, hey, what's up? And then he looked at it and he's like, man, that sucks. And he X'd and he just kept walking. That's all I am to him. I'm not a person with feelings, with a child. I'm a widget in his life. Not even worth IG stories. Just, you know what I mean? Yo, erase that motherfucker after 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah, he was, yeah. It really made me truly sad. What are you doing here? And I was like, I was walking my baby. And he was just like, aw, let me get a pic. Like, just pure transaction.